Many in our modern world are seeking to find answers to the constant pressure, tension and stress. Others want to know what the future holds for them. However, people do not always look to the Christian God of the Bible, but rather to the re-emerging ancient philosophies that promise peace today and a window into the future for tomorrow. It has become popular in recent years to redefine God and the teachings of the Bible. They all sound so certain, but do these ancient practices really derive their power from the true God or from some cleverly disguised evil power? The question we must answer is, do these practices bring delight or deception?
There are many ways to God, many, many ways.
And people are yearning to find something to fill this void inside. Pascal called it a God-shaped vacuum. But they're going to all sorts of gods and trying each one in succession.
The images that the Hindus put up to these various people like Krishna and Ganesha and that sort of thing, they don't worship those as gods. They say that is a manifestation of the absolute almighty power, which they call Brahman, same as our God.
I'm trying to turn on the power within, that tiny little piece of me that is God.
I'd go along to palmists, tarot card readers, clairvoyants, mediums, looking for what I wanted to hear.
It's alright actually. I mean, you learn a lot of stuff in there about all the witches and stuff like that, and most of it's real anyway, so it's interesting.
And then it was the year before last that we used to sell garden gnomes. Now there seems to be nothing wrong with garden gnomes at all. In fact, most people said, what's wrong with a garden gnome? They're funny, you know, people buy them and put them, but people don't realise, and I don't want to be over the top about this, but they do have connections with pixies, witches, evil objects, and I didn't want any connection with it at all. And when they went, I felt happy, much happier.
Things that look and appear to be attractive or fun often have a barbed wire hook inside the velvet glove.
Deception means that it is not easy to know whether an article is genuine or not. Few would be able to tell at a glance if either of these notes were a forgery. However, in shops today, machines can detect at an instant the true from the false. We want to closely examine a number of practices to see if they are deceptive forgeries. One of the cleverest deceptions of modern times can be summed up by the words New Age. Under this guise, seemingly innocent practices open people up to supernatural powers. New Age shops are springing up in every town, offering a multitude of remedies. A walk through a town like Glastonbury illustrates this point. This town is hailed as the cradle of Christianity. Here we see the stark contrast between the Orthodox Christian gift shop and the New Age shop next door. Filled with seemingly harmless objects, these shops are pointing the way to many of the ancient false gods. Spiritual healing may sound biblical, but we must ask the question, which spirit are they calling upon? On the evidence of the doctrine they portray and from their own literature, we can conclude that it is not compatible with the Holy Spirit and is therefore not of God. These practices advertised here are forbidden in Scripture. Therefore, like many of the New Age practices, they are ungodly. New Age is the old lie dressed up to fool and deceive people. And in today's liberalistic society, it has taken on a respectable face. Shop after shop is filled with all sorts of New Age objects and artifacts, and everywhere we come across divination. Even the inevitable cafe has its window full of so-called New Age objects. And of course, any bookshop in Glastonbury is filled with information on the alternative way of life. A multitude of authors offering a multitude of philosophies, all leading down the road to destruction. Many companies are quick to take advantage of people's desire to contact the supernatural. Everywhere in this sad town, New Age is the predominant factor. We spoke to some of the visitors and asked their opinion. Glastonbury is said to be the cradle of Christianity. Would you think that the sort of things you see around here in the shops are Christian? Would you accept that?
Some of the things in this shop I think are. There's some small prayer books, silent prayer books around there, which are really, really quite nice. I think it's a bit sort of mythical and magical as well as Christianity, a sort of mixture, which I find very interesting, all of it.
Right. Do you find those other things are anti-Christianity? I mean, in other words, do you believe it comes from another power, or are you happy to believe it's all the same power and it just comes in different ways?
I'm happy to believe it all comes the same way, yes. Yes.
And do you use any of the sort of the remedies they're talking about yourself?
I bought some lavender essential oil today because I use that, and I use aromatherapy oil sometimes in the bath and on my skin.
Do you find that brings you a spiritual experience or just a physical one?
It makes me feel good, makes me feel more relaxed and calm. And in anything, if anything makes you feel good, you want to do it again, don't you?
Right. Because, have you ever been to church, or have you ever had any experience in the church side that you could compare, or do you feel this gives you what you need apart from the church?
I do go to church. I am a Christian. I don't know really. It's just something sort of separate but interwoven slightly.
Right. And so it takes you beyond that experience. I don't want to put words into your mouth, but is that what you feel? It takes you beyond what the church gives you. It's something which you can't receive elsewhere.
Well, no, I wouldn't say it's something separate from the church. I mean, as I say, I'm a Christian and I believe in that, but also I believe in this type of thing as well. I don't think it takes away from the church or Christianity at all.
Have you ever thought of where the power to work might have come from with these various therapies?
No, I think you already know that.
Where do you think it comes from? Could you tell us?
Myself.
From within?
Yes, yeah.
So it releases the power that's already within to enable you to have the experience.
Yeah. Enhances it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Glastonbury on the brochures is described as the cradle of Christianity. Do you feel what you've seen today is compatible with Christianity?
It's difficult. We haven't been here long enough to soak up enough of that. I think it's very peaceful. It appears very peaceful. There's a lot of nice people about. Right. We've been camping with what you might call New Age travellers, part New Age travellers, and they're very, very pleasant, very happy people, very peaceful, and it feels good.
Right.
Yeah.
The various shops around here have all sorts of different methods of colour therapy, of rebirthing, etc. Have you ever experienced any of them yourself?
No, there are so many subjects. We've delved into some, and it's a little bit of everything, and there's so much to cover. You couldn't cover it all. Some of it, the root of it is very Christian, right, and it's very interesting, and if it brings peace and happiness, it's all to the better. Mm.
Do you feel that the power to heal that these therapies have is exactly the same as the power in the Christian church when they, for instance, the church up the road here is offering healing. Do you feel it's the same power that's doing the healing?
I think we all have the power to heal. I really do. There are certain aspects and certain subjects that people find better than others. Laying on of hands, anything, if it heals, it's good. It really is. It's something that's worth pursuing.
So the power is the same, it's just the method to which it's going to be released from within you?
I think so. I really think so. If it's godly and it's peaceful and people get a lot from it, and everybody's individual, very much so, yeah.
Right.
I think
different
so.
ways, isn't it? Different understandings.
Right.
And that's the way it comes out.
Can I say, I mean, have you had any sort of church background that you can relate the two together to see whether you feel it's different?
I think so. I mean, I grew up as a Christian, Anglican, brought up within the church, Sunday school, etc. And I think all this blends in if we will allow it to.
Right.
That's all we've got to do, is just drop the fear, really, and expand and allow ourselves just to blend with other people that maybe appear to be different, but they're not. We're all human.
Right. So you would feel that there is no harm in any of the therapies that are being offered in Glastonbury?
No, none at all.
None at all.
No.
I haven't seen any anyway. There's nothing here that suggests to me that there's anything harmful in it.
Great.
And I think we choose and go our own way, and if we feel good about it and enjoy it, then why not?
One person who can testify to the dangers of New Age is Jackie Wright. She followed this slippery slope of alternative thinking and ended up in a great deal of distress. Jackie, could you tell us something about your spiritual upbringing as a child?
There wasn't much of it. I was taken along by a relative to a few very boring church services, which I suppose I would now call high Anglican, with lots of hymns and sort of thunderings about sin from the pulpit, school assemblies, and that's about it really. Right. And by the time I was a teenager, I was pretty much a confirmed atheist. Right. None of it made much sense, and I thought it was all stuff of the history books.
And was it at that time that some of the New Age techniques, you began to hear about them and their spirituality? Was it then?
Oh no, it was much later on. I suppose been looking for healing for most of my life for various reasons, and at a particularly low ebb during my life I came across Shirley MacLaine's book, Out on a Limb. Right. I read this book and it opened up all sorts of doors to me, a world I've hitherto undreamt of, about spiritual matters, spiritual realms, and this whetted my appetite, because conventional counselling and therapies hadn't really reached the parts, but this opened new doorways.
And at that point you saw no problem between what she was saying and what you had learned about Christianity then? It balanced together in many ways.
Well, I didn't really put the two things together, to be honest, because I've never seen Christianity in spiritual terms.
Right. So this was your first, what you felt, your first real touch with any spirituality?
Yes, it was, yes. And Shirley talks in her book about trance channeling and enlightenment. It just opened up such a great spectrum of exciting areas I really wanted to explore, and so I started to read lots of esoteric books, got involved in yoga, meditation, and met like-minded people who were also questing. I can't say I was questing for God at that point.
Right.
I was searching for peace and healing.
How did your interest and experience develop in New Age?
It really happened. It's very hard to look back because it was a step-by-step process. Right. At the time, the main thing was that my life wasn't working out, and I needed to know there was a light at the end of the tunnel. And I think one of the main things at the time was I became very involved in divination. Right. I'd go along to palmists, tarot card readers, clairvoyants, mediums, looking for what I wanted to hear. And while I never heard exactly what I wanted to hear, there was always a slight ray of hope that spurred me on and kept me going until things started to fall apart massively again, and so I'd go and have another reading.
Right.
And then one day I had a very bad reading which didn't tell me at all what I wanted to hear. And the lady saw how distressed I was, this clairvoyant lady, and suggested I went to the crystal healers. Now this seemed a bit bizarre to me at the time. And I was so sort of wrecked. I went over and these lovely people laid hands on me, and just as you'd imagine a faith healer, they laid hands and they put these beautifully coloured stones all around me, and I had what they called a release, but to me was just floods of tears. Right. And they suggested that, yes, I had very deep needs, and they felt they could help me, and they invited me to go over to their centre, a natural health centre,
Right.
quite nearby. And they gave me their card. And as I didn't really sort of feel much better, I decided to go over and see what it was all about. And it was at that centre that I did receive a lot of healing, crystal healing. The people were very loving and very kind. They gave me their time. And that was very important to me at the time. And they accepted me as I was, and that too was important. So apart from healing, crystal healing, which was the mainstay of the centre, there were other things going on. Shiatsu was given, crystal reflexology, and also we were invited along to meditation evenings where we'd all meditate, have group meditations, and get to know each other socially. And obviously being with a lot of like-minded people that were also searching, this tended to introduce us to other healers, other centres, and it had this sort of knock-on effect. And what was happening? During my involvement at the centre, I evolved a New Age mindset without realising it.
Right. This sort of going from one thing to the other that
Yes.
you're talking about here, is that normal?
You don't stay with one therapy. You tend to sort of hop off to whatever the latest thing is. Also, you never quite get complete peace. You never quite get all the answers. And it's like you're spurred on into the next room where there's a little bit more knowledge, another piece of the jigsaw. And if finding that is through another practice or therapy, then you hurtle off and try it. And in my case, what was happening was I wasn't becoming more and more peaceful. I wasn't receiving more and more healing. It seemed to be the reverse. And fear had started to creep in. Things were starting to happen at home. Psychic activity that I'd never experienced before. Terrible dreams and nightmares. And I was a very frightened and confused person after I'd been involved in a number of these practices.
What happened to you that finally brought you to a place of saying, I don't want this anymore?
It was when I finally ended up being counselled by a person that was loosely called a Christian counsellor. The fact that he was a Christian was sort of by the by.
Right.
I believed there are many pathways to God, and if this person chose to be a Christian, that was fine by me. It wasn't necessarily my way.
Right.
And what was really helpful to me at that time, when I was very frightened and very confused, was that he accepted me and understood and was willing to speak to me in all these areas that were giving me problems. Then one day, after one of the sessions, he read Psalm 91 to me. And I again listened very politely, but something led me when I got home to dust off an old Bible someone had given me a long time ago and read Psalm 91. And what happened to me then I can only describe as a supernatural experience, because I knew I was safe.
Right.
And that was the most wonderful feeling in the world.
Right.
For the first time ever in this whole spiritual quest and path, I felt the safety of God. And I knew that somehow that was linked in with this book, this Bible. I didn't understand it all,
Right,
but
right.
something amazing had happened.
By this time, had you stopped looking at the New Age techniques and were just relying on the counselling, or were you still sort of looking around?
Oh no, I was still looking around.
Right. So after reading that passage from the Bible and God really speaking to you through it, saying you were safe, did that change your attitude at all as to what you were looking for and how you were looking for a way out?
Not at the time. What is interesting is that almost sort of in spite of myself, the day I read that passage, I prayed a commitment to Jesus. And I just asked him to help me. I just sort of reached out and said, please help me.
Right.
After feeling that lovely feeling of security and safety, it seemed to be the logical next step, although I didn't really understand it at the time.
Right.
But yes, I was still going off for readings, still going for channeling, and by no means, that wasn't the turn of the tide in terms of my life.
Right. Did you finally come to a decision that New Age was bad and Christianity was good, and that you really needed to get out of New Age into Christianity? What happened at that point in your life?
What did happen was that I had to put my feet firmly on the rock of Jesus. I realised that was the way forward, was that I had to stand on the Word of God. Things came to a head when one day I was very, very frightened because of what was happening at home. I'd had a weekend of intense psychic attack. I was very frightened, and I went to church on Sunday morning. I used to believe that the bigger the church, the safer it was, that I'd rush off to Exeter Cathedral thinking this must really be safe. But however, going back to this terrible weekend, I fell into the church and I just sobbed right the way through the service. I was so frightened. And later that day I was scooped up by my minister and his family, and deliverance was administered.
Right. So what you finally came to see, that although you had followed the New Age way openly and felt it was a different spirituality. Although there was a power, it was not a power from God.
I came to realise that once things started to be dispatched from me that I had no idea were present. Right. And I certainly felt things leave me during the deliverance process. And this really made me realise that I'd been in touch with and open to things that were not of God. And one of the most amazing things was a spirit of fear was cast out of me, right. And the fear left.
Right.
Now that to me proved there's something in this.
And so you experienced the fact that the power of God was greater than this power of evil.
Yes, and I think that was the beginning of the light beginning to dawn, that what I'd done as an act of will was actually getting through right. To be in heart knowledge that God's really powerful,
right.
And that there's practices which I then found out about he warns against in the Bible.
Right.
He actually warns against astrology, mediumship, clairvoyance. I had no idea that God had forbidden these things, and I now believe he didn't do it as a killjoy, right. But for our own safety, yes. To protect us. Because if you go shooting off spiritually in all these directions, you don't know what you're opening yourself up to. And this, now I can now look back and see, is what I did.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I know I'm safe within the Word of God as in the Bible, through Jesus. That's a safe place, and that means everything to me.
Right. Jackie, is there the possibility that any of these practices could be harmless and not affect the person spiritually for bad?
I think a lot depends on the level they go in. If somebody sort of just reads their astrology in a magazine, I'm sure that doesn't lead to instant demon possession.
Right.
It's how far down a road you go. But what happened to me was a step-by-step process that I wasn't aware of. It's very easily to be drawn along a path that ultimately will bind you up.
Supposing somebody is thinking, as you did very early on, hey, this seems good, I read this book, I've seen this alternative healing, etc., and it looks good, it's probably going to do me good, I want to go down that line. What sort of advice would you give to such a person?
I'd say be very careful. That's the first thing. Things that look and appear to be attractive or fun often have the barbed wire hook inside the velvet glove. Be very, very careful. And I would like to stress the importance of these warnings that are given in the Bible. They're not given idly.
Right.
I really experience the darker side of these practices.
Right.
And I would warn anybody to be very, very wary before becoming involved in any of these forbidden areas.
And so even though they look good on the outside, that may not always be the case.
It may not. Each person's spiritual path is individual, and I'm not saying that everybody's going to end up in the kind of mess I got into. But do you want to take the risk? That's what I'd say. Do you want to risk it?
Yoga is an ancient Indian art form that has grown in popularity in recent years. But opinion is divided as to the validity and safety of its practice. It is seen by some as just a healthy method of relaxation and exercise. Laurie Williamson is a renowned teacher of yoga who certainly believes this. Yoga has become increasingly popular in the Western world. Why?
Well, really, in the Western world, it tends to be because there are a series of exercises, postures, breathing, which are, beneficial purely from a health point of view, nothing to do with anything else, but purely because it's a good way of becoming flexible and supple and learning to breathe properly.
Do you believe in God?
Yes, it depends what you call God. I mean, God has many names. They talk about the absolute, the almighty, the infinite, whatever you want to call it. Yes, I believe there is a power, a creative power, an absolute, all-embracing power. If you want to call it God, yes, I believe in God. If you want to call it the absolute, yes, I believe in the absolute.
But do you believe in the Bible?
Oh yeah, the Bible is a marvellous book. I mean, it's a mystical book. So you have to read behind the lines. Nobody can argue against the teaching of Jesus because it was so good. What you can argue about, say, is how the church interprets them, the various factors and so on. But you cannot argue with the teachings of Jesus. No, nobody in yoga argues against the teaching of Jesus.
Do you believe in life after death?
Well, I tend to. Part of the tenet of yoga is the theory of reincarnation, where not necessarily going to some heaven in the sky, which is populated by all the lost souls who've gone, but coming back again in another body. So your immortal soul, which cannot die, finds itself another body and comes back, reincarnates, and has another lifetime. So that is part of yoga, part of most yoga teachings, reincarnation.
Laurie, yoga is an Eastern philosophy and discipline. How do you feel about worshipping Hindu gods?
Well, I don't worship the Hindu gods in yoga. You see, what it tends to say, the Bhagavad Gita is really the sort of, if you like, the New Testament of the yoga people. And in that, it says that there is, again, an absolute power, a creative power, which can manifest itself from time to time to help to save the world. And this is what they say has happened over the centuries. Now and again, a god has manifested, come down to earth to help to save people. Now the images that the Hindus put up to these various people like Krishna and Ganesha and that sort of thing, they don't worship those as gods. They say that is a manifestation of the absolute almighty power, which they call Brahman, same as our God. But they don't worship the gods, the idols. So they don't worship them.
Isn't it true, though, that most, if not all, yoga postures are prayers to these gods in disguise?
Why do people take up yoga? They take up yoga because the postures help them to get supple and to sit quietly. So, but they're not worshipping anything. They're just preparing to sit and meditate.
Not only has yoga taken off in these days, but TM is also flying. Many will have seen the demonstration of flying yogis at the press conferences of the Natural Law Party. We may have laughed or been astonished, but is either reaction the right one? TM first came to the public attention in the 1970s when the Beatles went to worship at the feet of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in India. TM claims to be nothing more than a gentle form of relaxation, and it is said to enhance all other religious beliefs. It is thought so helpful by some doctors that they send their patients for courses on the NHS. But is it all sweetness and light? Can people really be physically helped, or is there a supernatural power at work here? And if so, where is it from? This is the Golden Dome in the ideal village in Skelmersdale in Lancashire, the headquarters of the TM community in the north. The streets surrounding the dome are still privately owned. A representative of the company which owns the roads and a TM practitioner ordered us out of the area and would not allow us to film beside the dome. We offered them the chance to put their point of view, but they refused to take part in this program, claiming they had nothing to hide. Someone who certainly has nothing to hide is Frances. She was a victim of TM and Eastern philosophy, which caused great trauma in her life and almost wrecked her marriage. Did you have any church upbringing?
Yes, my family were Catholic, and I went to a Catholic school from infant school right through to leaving. And I thought it was a good upbringing. I'll always be grateful for that because it gave me a good foundation.
Why did you choose TM?
Well, it's quite a long story, really. I started doing yoga as a form of exercise, and I just really loved doing yoga. I thought it was just so relaxing, and I found it interesting as well. I found the philosophy. I found myself being drawn to the philosophy, and I suppose, went deeper and deeper into it, not knowing that I was being drawn into something spiritually wrong. Deep down, I'm a bit fed up that I can't do it because it is a very pleasurable thing, and this is one of the things about the deceit of the enemy. So many things are very pleasurable, and you've no idea that they're wrong or dangerous.
Did you feel that it was the yoga that led you into TM?
I'd heard about the TM from a few different sources, one being an Anglican vicar friend, and also a doctor. She did and still does recommend it to her patients as a form of relaxation. So I went along to see her and we had a long chat, and she said it would certainly help me with nervous problems, and also as well I've been taking tranquilizers and sleeping tablets, and I didn't want to be hooked on these things, and she said yes, that'll certainly help you with that.
Did you feel any difference after you started practicing TM?
I felt my mind was clearer. I also almost immediately managed to stop the sleeping tablets, and so many good things seemed to happen in my life that I just attributed it to the TM.
What happened after you started that made you suspicious of TM?
The things that were happening were like after we'd fall asleep at night, husband would jolt awake and he'd feel an awful sort of aliveness in the bed. He felt there was something sort of starting at his feet and sort of moving up and down his body like an energy. and he had to get out of bed and just walk around the room. And he had to do things like he'd sit on the edge of the bath in the bathroom, and he'd hang on to the taps. He felt as if he had to earth some sort of a static electricity. This feeling was just so bad in him. But it just sounded so crazy. The only people I did confide in were the TM people, the teachers, and also this doctor who had originally recommended it to me, and the vicar. And they all said they hadn't heard of this before, and one of them said that I must be so stressed up. Years of stress were just all pouring out when I fell asleep, and that's what was happening, and that in time it would just go.
Did you ever try to give up meditation?
Yes, I did, of course. When the problem started, I just thought, right, well, I can't do it anymore. But easier said than done. The meditation had to be done twice a day for 20 minutes, morning and evening. But if I just missed once, I'd just feel so awful. So it felt like I'd missed a whole night's sleep. But I did keep trying, and the longest period that I managed was a week. But I just felt I was just going to go insane. I felt so ill. It was dreadful.
But at this time, you couldn't say there was anything evil about it.
No, I never felt there was anything evil, because all the people that taught the TM, and there was a lot of them, it was a very, very big group of people, they were all so nice, so loving, so caring, and they were very concerned about the problem that I had. But the only solution they could come up with was the fact that my husband didn't meditate. So this is where the problem was being caused. So they encouraged me to encourage him to meditate. And praise the Lord, he said no. Because if he had, then goodness knows, I don't.
How did you eventually manage to give it up?
One day, I remember I was walking in a little wood with our dog, and I wasn't aware that I was crying out to the Lord, but I just felt so unhappy, just desperate, really. And I just felt a lovely peace come over me. And it was as if something had just gone click in my mind. And I thought, I don't need to meditate anymore. And I thought, I really do not need to meditate anymore. And I walked around the wood and I thought, I don't. And I didn't understand what had happened. Obviously God had just released me at that point. And I came home and I said to my husband, I don't need to do it anymore. And he said, oh, be careful, you know what it does to you, just be careful. I said, I don't need to do it, it's finished. And I never did it again. The Lord had released me.
What advice would you give to anyone considering taking up TM?
Well, funnily enough, only yesterday I bumped into an old school friend, and with lots to tell each other. She'd had a dreadful time. She'd had 2 failed marriages, and we got talking about different things, and she said that she'd been to see a doctor who had recommended her to do this type of meditation. And I was just horrified, and I just knew the Lord had brought me alongside her, because I was able to warn her, just don't touch it. Leave it alone. It's evil. But the enemy plays on people who are traumatized, who are in need, and it's so easy to be drawn into this and many other things like it without knowing the depth of what you're getting into.
Frances practiced yoga for 10 years and TM for 9 years. This has only been a short excerpt from some of the many traumatic and distressing incidents she and her husband suffered at the hands of TM. Nearly 17 million people come to Blackpool every year, and some, for a bit of fun, have their fortunes told. And here on the promenade, you'll find some of the most famous names in the business. Many of these booths are run by families who have been here for generations and plied their trade in and around this town since the early 1800s. Pearl Heron has been a gypsy palmist all her life. Now, since becoming a Christian, she has put all that behind her. We asked her to share her testimony.
I'm a gypsy, and since I was no age at all, I was reading fortunes, you know. I learnt it from my mother, and my mother learnt it from her mother, and that's the only way that we knew how to earn a living, is telling fortunes. Ouija boards, the cards, palmistry, witchcraft, spiritualism. I wouldn't go to none of them. I wouldn't go to none of them, because it is from the devil. It's from the evil one. But since I've been a Christian, I do believe that we was bound and chained by the devil, because the devil is the father of lies, and Jesus is the truth, and the Lord's took me out of darkness into the light, praise God, and now I just feel on top of the world.
And nines are very difficult because we have to clear all out.
Paula Paradima is a well-known clairvoyant, often broadcasting over the local radio station in Blackpool where she lives. In Paula's own psychic centre, we ask her where she thinks all of this power comes from.
I don't think I know. The power is within the person. Now, nobody finds it strange for someone to kneel and to pray to God, to draw within them a power from within themselves, to communicate to God, to reach out. Some people do it with a crystal. Some people do it with a meditation tape. Others do it by looking at the Nazarene on the cross. We draw the power from within. Yes, the earth has a natural energy, and I said a natural energy, as we all know. Anything that inspires man, anything that can bring to him the creativeness within him to reach out to God, I see no harm in it. I feel we need to concentrate and to focus on something, to bring out from within ourselves that tiny little spark which is God within all man. We're all different. We don't all eat the same things. We don't all dress the same way. There's only one God, and whichever way you find you can reach him, I see no harm in it. A pendulum. A pendulum measures energies within the body. We have chakras. We have these spiritual wheels and centers. If they go out of balance, we're out of balance. It is all to do with balance, and anything that can help a person to get that balance. What is the harm in that? I didn't ask for my gifts. They came naturally. I didn't develop these gifts. I was born with them. I was born this way. They say I summon the dead. I can't summon anyone. They come to me. Now they either come to me by the will of God or against the will of God. And if this are demons and devils, then how come they don't tell me to do wrong? How come whenever they come they tell me to help other people?
Paula seems a very sincere and genuine person seeking to help people, but where does her power come from? The Bible clearly shows that these practices do not emanate from God, and therefore any supernatural power she has must come from another realm. This is the realm of the evil supernatural. Many people are fascinated by the supernatural. They seem drawn to spooks and ghostly goings-on, but only just for a laugh. And of course, every fairground has the inevitable ghost train, or even a haunted house. But a more sinister version is appearing in many towns, which is positively demonic and could certainly harm some people and leave them spiritually disturbed. This is reputedly the most haunted house in the country. The legends and stories of Chingle Hall date back to the 13th century. Books have been written, television programs have been made, both here and as far away as Japan. A mini tourist industry has sprung up around this place, selling all sorts of souvenirs, and families and parties come for a day out, making use of the picnic area provided. Many people accept a challenge to spend the night here as a bet or for raising money for a good cause. There's no such thing as a ghost as we know it. God forbids the return to this world of the spirit of a dead person. But where some traumatic incident has taken place, an evil spirit comes disguised as that dead person to fool and mislead. Pendle Hill in Lancashire has been associated with witchcraft since the early 1600s. Today, interest in this dangerous practice has increased, and many shops have sprung up in the local high street to meet the demand. The shop behind me attracts hundreds of visitors a year, searching for books, artifacts, and further information on witchcraft. The proprietors claim they are not promoting witchcraft, but merely selling souvenirs of a legend. We asked them if it was right to make money out of such an evil practice, but they declined to be interviewed. Kevin Logan is a local Anglican vicar who has studied witchcraft and the occult and is the author of 3 books and well qualified to answer our questions. We asked him why there is such a rising interest in these practices.
The rise in the occult, of alternative spiritualities, of paganism, of witchcraft, of Satanism even, is down to the fact that the old, traditional, orthodox ways of breaking down, the gods of yesterday, are no more. Their feet are made of clay, they've crumbled and they're toppling. The gods of science, scientism, people relied so much on science, didn't they? But it created the Chernobyls. And it couldn't cure them. It can't even cure AIDS. It can't even cure the common cold. Science is fallible. The same with technology. It's given us so much heartache about how to keep people alive, when to let them go. It doesn't answer the real questions of who I am, what life's all about. Other particular issues like materialism. We've got the second colour television and there's still this hollow. We've got the second car. At least some of us rich people in the north, that is, and we're still finding materialism is as hollow as the whole of life, and people are yearning to find something to fill this void inside. Pascal called it a God-shaped vacuum, but they're going to all sorts of gods and trying each one in succession. And you go to witches, you go to Satanists, you go to New Age people, those in the psychic and the paranormal, and they're all busy trying to find a god that's going to fill this vacuum, and they do, for 2 or 3 years maybe, or maybe 2 or 3 months. And then they find, no, it doesn't settle, it doesn't fulfill, it wants to take control of me, and then they're scrabbling to get onto other things as well. So there's been a tremendous increase in these alternative spiritualities because the gods of yesterday have crumbled. But there's a second reason for the rise in the occult, and it's this, and it's the more horrible one really. It's because the Western Church, the Church in England, has let us down. In coming out of the last war into the 50s and the 60s, we declared God was dead, the theologians. we said that God didn't get involved with man anymore. He wasn't an interventionist God, therefore there were no miracles. God didn't become a man in Jesus Christ. He's not coming back again. There's no real devil. There's no real hell. We've had a recent vicar who's sacked because he doesn't actually believe in God. Everything is being torn apart from institutionalized Christianity, and people are coming to the church, not finding spiritual satisfaction, and they're going to the alternatives. And the greatest sadness that I've got is seeing these witches who are refugees from Christianity, from churchianity.
Throughout this documentary, we have contrasted two supernatural powers, one good and one evil. However, nowhere is this better illustrated than here in Boscastle in Cornwall. On one side of the square, we have what was once the Pixie House. Now it's the Harbour Light Christian gift shop. And on the other, the Witches Museum. We asked Trixie if there was any harm in pixies.
Well, I didn't think so at the time. I mean, when I ran it as the Pixie shop for about 14 years, I had the little pixie charms on the counter. I had a lot of pixies around, and I had witches on the ceiling. And I didn't think so at the time. I thought there was nothing wrong with it at all, but until I became a Christian, which was about 5 years ago. I gave my heart to the Lord.
How did that change your attitude?
It changed it. It was a sort of gradual change. It's how it happens. I mean, at first, when I started selling these little pixie charms, I thought, people used to say to me, you know, these are lucky, aren't they? And I thought, no, they're not. I don't believe in that. So I thought, well, no, I can't sell these anymore. And they went first. They were the first to go. And it was a gradual process of eliminating them, and the witches went because I thought, well, no, I don't want anything to do with anything like that at all that is to do with the occult.
Now, here we are today. You're a Christian. You had the gift shop as a Christian, and we're right next to the Witches' House here, the Witches' Museum here in Boscastle. How do you feel about that?
It's a strange transition, really, because I always have been close to the Witchcraft Museum. At one time, Mr. Williamson, who runs it, and it's been there for almost as long, I think only a year or two after we started up the shop, the Witchcraft Museum came into being, and I think it possibly came into being because it was the Pixie shop and the Witchcraft Museum, the Witch's House, you see. And I do remember when Mr. Williamson was thinking of selling up a few years ago, I even approached him and said, sell it to me, because we go hand in glove together. And that's how I felt at the time. Since which time, since I've become a Christian, since the name changed last year, I feel quite different, naturally. Living next door to the Witchcraft Museum, it doesn't worry me, it doesn't upset me, because I feel victorious. I know that the Lord is in control, that He's claimed this ground, and I am honoured, really deeply honoured to be His steward, really.
Are you aware of two distinct powers being here?
Totally, yes, I'm totally aware of that. I know the power of the satanic powers that people aren't aware of in black magic. And I know the power of the Lord. I know that the power in me is greater, which is why I don't feel, I feel victorious in that, but I know the power in that, and I know that the people who come here don't recognize that power, and yet there are some who are drawn to it very greatly.
Are there, any experience that people have had in the museum, and then people coming in talking to you?
People have come from there, quite often they come from there, and they come into our shop and they note the difference. They're not Christians maybe, but they say, oh, it's dark in there, it's cold in there, it's horrible in there. I hear children come out and say, oh, Mum, there's a two-headed pig in there, or there's these sort of things, and the mothers say, oh, is there, dear? They're not always aware of these things.
You would therefore have no problem in taking your family into a place that you felt came from the devil?
To be honest, I didn't really think about it when I went in. I just went in. I didn't stop to think what I was going in to see.
If you had have thought about it in those terms, might you have had second thoughts?
No, I think I'd have still gone just out of curiosity and interest, I think. Yeah, I'd still have gone in.
Yeah. Have you sort of experienced anything else in witchcraft other than visiting this place here?
No.
Do you think you would like to after seeing what's in there?
Yeah, probably.
Have you any ideas how you would follow that up?
Go to a church or something.
So the church would lead you into witchcraft, that's your thinking, is it?
No, it wouldn't lead you into it, but it'd tell you stuff about it.
Right. Part-time.
I work here part-time, right. Yes.
How do you feel about people coming in and looking at all the black magic symbolism, etc.?
Actually, I keep an open mind about all that, because, as I say, I just work here part-time, and it's jolly interesting, I must admit.
Right. Do you feel that the power is evil, or how do you look at that?
No, it's not evil. You're referring to Satan, aren't you? Satan, witchcraft.
Yes.
But it's just actually witchcraft here, and it's just it's a museum, and there's articles which the Mr. Williamson has collected over in the past.
Right.
You know.
For the sake of our viewers, could you explain the difference? Because I think some of them might be a little confused between what is of Satan and what is witchcraft. Can you explain the difference of that?
It's just like the moon is Satan, isn't it? It's brainwashing, but this is just harmless witchcraft, you know.
I think it is difficult for people to go in there and not be affected. And I have this sort of feeling, I mean, I have Christians who come in who say, we're praying against that all the time, we want it to be closed. And I had a feeling last year that maybe the Lord is allowing it because here are the two distinct sides of the coin, the darkness and the light. And I think He's probably allowing it so that people who go in there can see the complete difference between the darkness of Satan and the lightness of the Lord.
And for all you people who's not Christians, I do believe I have to say this, Jesus loves you.
My encouragement would be, don't be afraid, because the Lord equips us, all of us, and He's a strong tower that we run into. And I can't say enough about my experience of the Lord Jesus Christ, because it's so wonderful. I just wish more of His people would appropriate that wonderful unconditional love.
But there is a basis, a rock on which we stand of Jesus Christ and all that is given to us in reason, in logic, and in emotion and intuition. So I think we're right, I know we're right, because the Lord Jesus Christ has given us so much information, and that's a fact.